What happens when two founders who couldn't find the right co-founder finally found each other and within months built a product used by 6,000 people upon the first 3 weeks of release? That's the story of Vibeflow, a YC-backed startup that's redefining built with AI. Instead of generating messy codes that break under production, Vibeflow is blending low-code and no-code tools in order to help non-technical founders build real production-ready application robustly and visually. Today, we dive into how Alessia and Elia went from co-founder dating hell to building one of the most exciting AI dev tools out there.
Hi, I'm Alessia. Hi, I'm Elia, and we are the co-founders of Vibeflow. And this is Founders in Motion.
Quick thing before we get started, we have a lofty goal this year of hitting 1,000 subscribers in order to help more people build really great companies. So if you enjoy the content, learn something new, the best way to support us is by subscribing. Okay, let's get into it. So before we dive in very simple words, what does Vibeflow do?
So Vibeflow is an all-in-one platform that allows anyone to build production-ready apps in no-code. All the existing solutions are pretty good at the first generation, but they don't tackle the problem of maintaining and scaling these applications, which is a need that a lot of non-technical people have. And what they do right now is that they hire a technical team to continue the development. So this is exactly what we are tackling. The problem that we're tackling is allowing them to maintain and scale these AI-generated apps. So go beyond the first generation.
Yeah, which is super important and make it way more useful for non-technical founder to actually deploy something rather than just showing a demo or prototype that doesn't really work in development. So before Vibeflow, you were both separately tinkering with ideas, joining residency, trying YC co-founder matching. What was that period like?
It's a big process. I think it's one of the most important processes in a startup and should not be not take super seriously. I had the opportunity last year to join EF, Entrepreneur First in Paris. And this is a program to do co-founder matching platform. So you try to match with people and build iterate of an idea. And after you have to see if you match or not on the topic, on the professional side, on the personal side. And there it's super funny because they celebrate breakup. So it means that when you break up, because it's you don't lose time. You need to figure this out super fast. Yeah. And this is the process that I have been in. And I was trying very hard. I met, I think, 60 people in 3 days. And at one point, I realized that I couldn't find anyone that was in the same mentality as me, which is super hardcore mentality. I want to work 7 days of the week. I don't want to ask someone to work, and super ambitious as well. And I know that Alessia was like this. I will tell you the end of the story, but I will let her side first. Basically, I was working full time for a company, and I always enjoyed doing my side projects. And I tried to work with several people, but none of them was willing to go full time with a startup. So it's really difficult to do a startup part time. I don't think it's possible. Yeah. So at some point, I just invested in myself, and I took a leap of faith, and I quit the job. Yeah, I tried to do the YC co-founder matching platform. I tried to talk to these people, and they were all amazing people. The co-founder matching platform is really, it's like a dating platform. It's like a Tinder or Bumble. When you look for a co-founder, you really need to have not only a personal connection, but also you need to know how the person works. It's really hard to do a startup with a stranger. Yes. And I tried, but at the end it felt odd. We kind of went in this process together. I was in Paris, she was in Zurich, but we were doing the exact same thing. And we were calling every day as friends, talking about this experience. And we kind of complain about not finding the right match and being super motivated, but really not finding the person that you want to be with. At one point, we just said, but why are we not brainstorming together at least? So at one point, we decided to brainstorm. And we directly ended up on an idea. It was not Vibeflow's partner, but we saw that the team was working well.
So you were meeting such a high volume of people in a short amount of time. What are some kind of advice or learnings that you had from that experience in terms of founders that are navigating that process of how they can narrow down who to work with, who to not very quickly?
The co-founder is the most important thing, especially in early stage. You need to prioritize your team before anything else, because the idea is going to change everything is going to change, but the only thing that is not going to change. So I would say that you should not find only the interests. Like you should not go to someone because you like the idea that they're working on. I think the right way is the personal fit and the way of working and the values, and after the rest will come together.
And so you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but once you teamed up, what was the first few ideas that you guys worked on, thought of, and what happened to them?
So I have a background in like computer science and AI, but kind of specialized to biotech. And Ale has a background in like computer graphics and like computer vision, right? And so we didn't had like one interface, except the fact that we were both very technical to start with, right? But we had common interests like mental health, nutrition, health. So we started in the health area and we looked into a very niche problem, which was like microbiome, deep tech, biotech. So we got some initial tractions. At one point, we came back to what we know best. So AI and dev tools. This is really where we have the edge because I have really a strong edge in like AI research and her in software engineering. Like she has more than 4 years of software engineering experience. So we came back and we just tried the tools and we look online and we saw so many, like it was at the moment where like Lovable exploded and we saw that there were so many complaints. Like everyone was super mad on the social and we're trying to understand what was happening.
I love that. And I really like the point that you mentioned in terms of like testing quickly, breaking up with the idea quickly, and not getting too hung up on things. And one thing I wanted to go deeper in is you mentioned when you go into these user interviews or potential customer interviews, you don't want to lead with bias. How do you practice that in these conversations?
It's a super hard process. I did 3 entrepreneurship program where they teach you that. So I did EWR where this was my first initiation of that. And you read the mom test. I think it's super famous. And after like the thing is that it's something that you learn by doing and you always do it wrong. Like you will always learn something that you do wrong because it's super hard. And the point is like talk to the right people. So you need to do some work before. So you need to kind of narrow down the problem and who can be really your customer to be able to get the data that you need. Otherwise, it can be noise. You need to be in the shoes by understanding how they approach a problem. But what we saw with Alessia also is that we actually went in like hospitals, we went in sites, and I think this is the best because nobody is going to tell you what they say and what they do is completely different. So you need to go on site to understand what is exactly happening, and you will learn way more by seeing than by listening.
Yeah, I love that point because everyone emphasizes customer interviews, but if you do them incorrectly, it can actually be more detrimental than good. And that kind of experience of living the life of your user is actually so important and underrated. You mentioned that you built the first Vibeflow platform within a month. So, what did that very early version look like?
It was Vibeflow without AI. So basically, we allowed people to import their UIs from other tools like Lovable, for example, and then we allowed them to build the backend manually with this drag and drop interface. But there was no AI, and then it evolved afterwards.
Why was it important to have the first version be no AI and have this kind of low code builder? Like, what were you trying to test with that first initial version?
So we saw online that there were a lot of people that were combining tools like Lovable and Iten and Supabase to create these prototypes, functional prototypes with a full backend. The problem with this solution is that they have 3 different platforms. So imagine 3 different subscriptions, 3 different platforms where the app lives. Half of the code base, because, for example, N10 doesn't give you the code behind the app. And it was just not, it was like a Frankenstein approach. This is how we call it, right? And what we did was we tackling this need by providing a one solution, all-in-one solution, where people could just build their backend and then export the code and have their application and own the application. So we tried to narrow down. The first use case was like AI agent integration with the database.
And then obviously you added the AI element and then you launch on Product Hunt, where Product Hunt is where makers launch new tech products to early adopters. You won Product of the Day and hit 6,000 users in 3 weeks, which is incredible, awesome. How did you actually land those kind of first few thousand users?
We kept launching. So as we said, we launched the first prototype on the internal YC platform. Then we launched with YC, then we launched with Product Hunt, and then we launched with Hacker News and on Reddit as well. So it's a continuous process, and I think this is the trick. Like you're not gonna do one huge launch. Yeah, you're gonna do maybe one huge launch, but in between you need a lot of feedback, and you need a feedback loop where you improve. You keep improving the platform based on the feedback that you receive, and a lot of feedback at the end comes naturally. You don't even have to look for that. People come to you because they resonate with the solution, they resonate with the problem, and then they come to you and they ask you specific features. They kept launching on different platforms.
I've heard a couple in terms of a couple people's different perspective on like what they think is the most useful thing for them by being a part of the Y Combinator network. So it seems like there is just the status batch of being a YC company, there is the network, and there's the mentorship. If you have to remove two and only keep one, what do you think was the most important during your time at YC?
Now, for me, it's definitely the network. We got the chance to meet incredible people that are just over the top, and they're also good people. I was really impressed by how YC managed to select very good people that are also excelling at what they do. So definitely the network, and everyone wants to help each other. So that's the biggest value. And the network brings you also a lot of visibility.
I will agree with Alessia. Then also the network. I will say that the logo badge YC is crazy, and I don't know if it's going to change in the future. So that's why I don't stick with this one, because maybe it's super important early stage, but maybe in the future has less importance. What I think that the network is going to grow with you, and it's always going to be relevant no matter the stage of your startup, because you are surrounded. So first in the batch, you met amazing people that are still in contact and support you for everything, right? So if you want to get feedback, have potential customers, understanding how they went through a specific challenge, you have all of that to hands. And there's a platform where you can reach out to them, and you can you can definitely always sell to YC startups, which is a big point, right? So I would say the networks brings you far, and the badge maybe is at the beginning, but I will see how much it still has so much weight.
Yeah, for sure. So, Y Combinator, for anyone listening, is the accelerator that backs Silicon Valley's most iconic startups like Airbnb, Stripe, and Coinbase, and still kind of one of the highest ranked residency startup school program in the world for early stage startups. So, this is kind of more of a point of fascination. Elia, you've done a few kind of residency startup school. Like, how do you compare your experiences?
The first one was Ewer was very early stage, so it changed a lot. So I cannot really say about how is the experience today. But there I really learned about the basic of startup and customer discovery. Like, and I think customer discovery is something that you don't learn, for example, at ETH, like in a technical school, right? You really need to know that this is what you have to do to be able to validate the problem. And I think this is super valuable, and that I will bring those skills every time. On the other side, EF is an amazing program if you don't have a co-founder and you're struggling not finding the right match, because they put you in a room with like 70 people that has different experience. So I think it's a really cool experience, and they are all full-time, which is something you struggle to find, right? And I think EF like nailed that because people have time and are focused on only doing that for 2 months. So for co-founder matching, definitely EF. And YC, I think YC is like for sure amazing. I would say that the people you meet there are really insane, because maybe it's the US, but it feels so like that everything is possible. And this is something that you don't really feel that much in Europe, that you always have like I don't know, in YC I think we became way more ambitious, way more like you don't see any limiting belief anymore. So I think that YC with the way it is in San Francisco also help a lot about like just accelerate 10 times the startup.
I love that point because I definitely resonate. I think there's something about the US, especially Silicon Valley, that makes you think nothing is impossible and you can really dream the world. That kind of mentality um, is something that is not super widespread in the rest of the globe. So you get in, and within days, you're moving from Zurich and Paris all the way to um, SF. So, what did that week look like for you?
To be honest, I think we kinda expected it. I know
Wow.
it's weird. Like
Confidence.
we put so much effort into it that we kind of I like to say we manifested it.
Yeah.
So I like we both had apartments here and we had to leave
Yeah.
the apartments and I didn't even have time to leave the apartment because I had too many things there. I don't know if I think about it now, it looks crazy, but in the process, we really were living in the moment. So we were not thinking about what happens next week, what happens in 2 weeks. I think we were really living the experience in the moment. And we moved to SF. We started living together in working 24/7 at a pace that was like crazy. But it was just exciting. I think the only emotion that I can think about when I think about this period of time is zero fear, a lot of excitement, and a lot of motivation.
And we didn't apply to YC in the previous startup, like microbiome, deep tech, all those kind of things. Like when we pivoted and we knew that was the right problem we wanted to tackle, like for the next 10 years, and YC was the obvious next steps.
And then I'm curious, when you applied to YC, did you guys already build the product and launch yet, or was it still like idea prototype stage?
It was idea prototype stage in the sense that we had put out a playground that we were testing with a lot of users, so in our network, for example. And yeah, it was a deployed playground. That's it. So it's nice because we could put it in the application and the people, the partners could test it as well. But it was still not a full product. It was just a playground.
Was there a moment kind of during your time in YC that really changed the way you thought about building?
Just launch something. It's okay if it has a bug. It's not a problem. Like people that really need the product, they're gonna find the solution with for that, or they're gonna tell you and they're gonna scream that they need the bug to be fixed. And it's just a way to iterate with the product. So it's perfect. You just put it out and you keep fixing bugs and adding features, fixing bugs and adding features. And I think this is what changed in our way of working and the mentality that we had because we were really precise. It's exactly the opposite that you need to do in a startup. You need to be fast and concentrate and prioritize on the most important things based on the feedback because it's always a feedback from the world, not the feedback from you.
The thing is that in YC you already have, you know what you want to achieve and you have a vision about where you want to be, right? So it doesn't change really the directions, but it just accelerates it, as you said, right?
Mhm.
So you need, like for example, you said I'm going to launch in 2 months. No, they make you launch in 1 month, which is good because you need to know that you're never going to feel ready anyway, and you need like every time we're trying to plan the future, maybe it's going to be businesses that are going to use it, maybe it's going to be consumers, and our partner was like, you cannot predict anything. You need data from the real world to be able to understand what you need to build. Like usually you launch and after you understand what you should have built. And this is exactly what you need to do because you cannot wait that you have the perfect product in your mind. You have a prototype of a product that kind of works and that has the vision that you want to express to the world. And after that, you go from there. So yes, launching fast and launching often is the most valuable thing in early stage startup. And I think you really need to learn to be scrappy and to be okay if it's not perfect, it has to be good enough.
So everyone's building in the AI dev tools from kind of household names like Lovable, N8N to kind of the newly released OpenAI Agent Kit to many other startups out there. So where do you see kind of Vibeflow fitting in that landscape longer term?
As I briefly mentioned before, we really want to place ourselves in the long term to allow people to go beyond prototyping. And a lot of the tools that you mentioned right now stop at prototyping. So whether that's for AI agents or for web app application development, they still stop at prototyping. And we want to tackle exactly that because there is no really any visual or any IDE for vibe coding right now that resonates with everyone, especially when it comes to an opaque area of the backend, for example. Because what people don't know how to do is how to prompt the AI or the agent to modify or debug something that they don't see or they don't understand because they don't even know maybe what a backend is, right? So that's exactly what we want to, where we want to position ourselves.
And then you said that for Vibeflow, AI doesn't really touch the raw code. It builds node-based flows that generate it. So why does that distinction matter in terms of reliability?
So, for example, you are trying with AI to build the logic of your app. you need to understand what you want to build before generating the code. And this is what happens. So on the first side, you iterate with the AI and you have a visual feedback of what is building. And once you agree with the first logic, you can generate the code, and the code is generated deterministically. So you don't, like, once you agree with the AI of what you want to build, it works. And this is so much faster, so much more robust, and you don't have to let the AI generate the code, not understanding it, test a bit, it doesn't work. You go in a loop like this for 4 days. You lost time, you lost money, and you're super frustrated. So that's a huge difference. And I think that's also what we brought as developers to non-technical people, because when you're a developer, you first think a lot before coding. And AI doesn't do that right now. Like, AI just code, removed everything, like remove the full folder and just redo it again. So and you need, like, the rules in coding is that you have to be very minimalist and you want to change only what is necessary.
And also by doing that, you learn exactly what people need. So you learn how people think. You learn what are their needs and what they need to modify, and what are the most important parameters for them, and so on. So this is a really good point.
Yes, this brought me back to my traumatic days, like learning how to code. So I actually started coding with OCaml out of all languages. So super strict, and like we had to play around with runtime and like optimizing space. It brings a lot of trauma back to me. And with OpenAI releasing its agent toolkit and kind of the movement into making these workflows and then potentially in the future ability to create applications, do you see them as future competitors or kind of playing a part of the same ecosystem?
I believe that is the best validation that you can have for what you're building. Because just imagine, like, OpenAI is AI by definition, by its core. And the fact that they put out like a no-code builder, it's a validation that AI is not there to be able to generate a agent from scratch. It's not fast enough. It has a lot of limitation. And so the fact that they put that for developers, not for non-technical people, it's really a proof that those tools are really needed more than ever, and people are visual and needs to have a feedback. So for us, it's just a validation, and they focus on AI agents for OpenAI and also for developers right now, because you have no AI trying to help you build those agents. And it's pure focus on agents, but agents will always be non-deterministic. So we don't focus only on agents, we focus on backend, and we generate deterministic code. Because, for example, if you want to have a workflow like connect multiple apps, you can do this in a deterministic fashion. And you want to have this reliability. Like, for example, every time that the user connect to your platform, you send them an email. You want this to always happen. You don't want an AI say, okay, shall I send an email or not? So you always need to have those automation like Zapier, Make, anything. They will not disappear. And that's where we focus more. And also we focus on backend, which is a very hard problem that a lot of people are not tackling today, and try to replace it with input AI agents output.
Yeah, super awesome. What's been the most valuable lesson that you've learned as founders throughout this process?
You always try to achieve perfections on your product on your own without being connected to your customers. And you think that after it's going to be easy, but I don't think after it's going to be easy either.
I mean, this also goes along with do things that don't scale, like focus on something that is very like niche, and then you can expand afterwards. Like solve a problem for one person,
Yes.
one person that comes back every day and loves you and loves your product, the company, and then you can scale after that. But find that one person.
I would say that the environment matters a lot as well. I think San Francisco is a big one for that. In San Francisco, you're never going to be good enough, which is good, because you always want to push the limits of what you're doing. And you also, like, and in Europe, I think you can be good enough very fast, and you don't want that. You always want to, like, you had goals and here are the goals now every time. And I think this is really important to keep pushing, and also iterating fast. Like, don't do a roadmap for 1 year, do a roadmap for 2 weeks and make sure that you achieve the goals, and also be way more ambitious on the goals.
Yeah, I love that. My personal motto is if you're dreaming, you might as well dream all the way up to the universe and then land
Yeah.
somewhere in the clouds.
YC tells you all the time is that during the batch, at least, it's like, if you don't talk to users or you're not building, what are you doing? And it's good. For example, you're out in a party and you think about that and like, I know, I'm not good. I shall go back to building.
Yeah, there's so many things that can distract you, and focus is so important because time is finite, right? how we like to end this is with a few rapid fires. So would you rather do a demo day redo or product hunt replay?
A demo day review. Yeah.
Product hunt replay.
Ooh, we're seeing some discrepancy here. Harder to find product market fit or the right co-founder?
Right co-founder.
Yeah, right, co-founder.
Mm. Zurich or San Francisco?
San Francisco.
And maybe this one is a hot take, but do you agree? Building a company in Europe is building in hard mode.
For me, 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
You
And-
have to
and-
put it on your side and you maximize the chance, like the surface of luck.
I guess, like, what do you think are the main reasons?
For me, the main reasons are one, network. Like in San Francisco, you have to make zero effort to meet anyone you want. Like you literally meet anyone without any effort, and the barrier to meet them is non-existing. While in Europe, it's of course it's higher. Events as well, and then there is the part that Elia was mentioning before, which is the belief that you can do anything. So in San Francisco, everyone is like, you can do anything. And especially every time you talk about something, everyone is hyping you up.
For example, I don't know, like you raise 10 million there, it's normal, right? You don't think that you achieved anything. In Europe, maybe you feel you achieved already, and so you always have the imposter syndrome. Maybe like you need to, you need to do way more. You need to do way more because you're not there yet. And I think this is the mentality that you want to have. You don't want to like be less hungry. You always want to achieve more because you feel that you're a nerd and you're being judged. And when I arrived at ETH, everyone was in the same bubble. Like you being judged if you don't work. And I think in SF is the same. If you don't work on your startup and they're gonna judge you more than here, they might say, go take a break, go out, it's gonna be fine, this kind of things. You always want to be surrounded by people that understand you and push you to do more.
Yeah, I love that. If you're not talking to customers or building, what are you doing, right? That's a wrap. If you like this episode, please hit the subscribe button. It helps us bring on more awesome guests, level up production, and drop new series you'll want to watch. See you in 2 weeks.